So Heather, if you want to hit record. We good to go? Okay. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the 2022 Smoky Mountain Trip Informational Meeting. It's been a few years since we've been talking Smoky Mountain Trip, so we're really excited to be back having the conversation we're going to have tonight. Do some introductions. My name is Mike Seppi. I am the Director of Community Ed for Parkway-Rockwood Community Ed. And we have several folks on with us tonight that are going to each play a part in the presentation as we go along. So I'm just going to give you some names right now, and then you'll see some faces with names as we get into the presentation tonight. But we have Heather May, who is a community ed supervisor who works out at the Babbler Outdoor Education Center and helps us oversee these trips. Kelly Regan is our supervisor for the Rec and Ed department here in community education. We also have Chloe Kirsten, who is our inclusion specialist here in community ed. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as the presentation comes along. And then we have our 3 trip leads for this year. If you have a child who has experienced Smoky Mountains trips in the past, they previously were led by one individual, and we've had a little bit of change in staffing here in community ed. And so for this year, we are so pleased to have 3 of our most seasoned trip chaperones have agreed to step up and help us lead trips. So those 3 folks are Ellen Downs, Laura Baker, and Jason Livanos. And so the 3 of them will have an opportunity in just a few minutes to share a little bit of information about them and their perspective as we look ahead to the trips this spring. So those are the introductions. Last thing I want to say before we get started is tonight we're going to use the chat feature for questions. We anticipate you'll probably have some questions as we go through the presentation. And in the interest of being respectful of everyone's time, we're going to ask that you drop those questions in the chat. And then at the end, we will come back and answer questions. So there is a chat feature there on Zoom. If you click on that, you can drop your question as the presentation goes along. So, okay, with that, we'll go ahead and get started. I believe everyone should be able to see my screen, which is sharing the presentation at the moment. Heather, thumbs up that that's still showing. Is that correct? Okay. All right. So as I mentioned, we do have a presentation tonight. We are going to ask you to put all the questions that you might have in the chat, and we'll try to answer them as we get to the end of the meeting. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Ooh, 1 second here. There we go. So just a little bit of background for those of you that might be new to the Smoky Mountains experience and or community ed. Parkway-Rockwood Community Ed is a partnership between the Parkway and Rockwood school districts that provides programs for residents of both districts. One of those programs that we're proud to provide is the Trek and Travel program. The Trek and Travel program is designed to provide experiential learning opportunities for students outside the classroom. And the main program currently that falls under Trek and Travel is the Smoky Mountain Adventure Trips. So in a given year, we will send 6 different trips of about 700 Rockwood 5th grade students to the Smoky Mountains over the course of the spring. Heather's going to jump in. Heather May, as I mentioned, she is our supervisor out at the Babbler Outdoor Education Center and is helping us oversee the trips this year. She's going to jump in now and start kind of talking about what the trips look like. And then I'll come back towards the end and give you some of the logistics related to registration and how that process works. So Heather, come on in and take it away.
Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be able to offer the trips again. And I know you all have a lot of questions. I have overseen the trips since they moved over to us in about 2011. And I know there's a lot. We try and set this PowerPoint up so we can answer a lot of your questions. But of course, as we said, if you've got questions, go ahead and pop them in the chat as we go. So we know there's questions about who's going to supervise, how much does it cost, how are we going to get there, where will they sleep, what are they going to do when they're there, where are they going, and how is my child going to be safe? So we're going to work through all those and help you figure out how you're going to send your baby with us a long way away. All right, so when are the trips? Each school has already been pre-assigned a trip. We do that because of the way that schools tend to break down in their numbers to give every school kind of the maximum capacity or an ability to have the most seats. So take a look at your dates. And then this is also in all the information that we give and also on our website. So when you sign up, you're going to sign up for the trip that your school is on.
And just one thing to point out about trip dates is you'll notice behind all the trip dates, all the trips leave on a Thursday evening. And that's why you see departs the evening of. More information will come out regarding each specific trip's departure location, but it's just important to remember all trips leave on a Thursday evening and then they return on a Monday evening.
Thanks, Mike. So on the trip, all people who will be on the trip are going to be Rockwood staff. So they might be teachers, sports staff, administrators. We have a nurse go with us. And then on site, we have Tremont staff that help supervise the programs and put on all of the activities and programs that happen there. We have a ratio of about 10-to-1. Sometimes it's lower when we have extra people on the trip.
Yep, and when you hear us talk about Tremont, just so you know, it is the location that we're staying, it's called the Tremont Institute at Great Smoky Mountains National Park.
All right, so we are, like Mike said, we are headed to Townsend, Tennessee is the town right outside of the part of Smoky Mountains, Great Smoky Mountains National Park that we hit. It's about a 9.5-hour bus ride, and we do take the comfy buses. They have slightly reclining seats. They've got restrooms. They've got video monitors, air conditioning, heating, all that fun stuff. So we stop every few hours, about every 3 hours throughout the night to get coffee for the bus drivers, make sure everybody's together, and, you know, hit the bathrooms and everything like that. When we arrive, it's pretty early morning. And we will be able to see the Smoky Mountains in all their glory, kind of at sunrise. It's a really beautiful way to come into the mountains. So everyone will sleep in a single building. It is a large kind of residential dorm. So the picture on the bottom there is, you can kind of see the brown staircase. So it's really divided into 2 levels. We usually have kids split by gender. So we have either the girls on top or the boys on bottom, however it breaks down best. So their entrances are separate and then they know kind of where to go. Bedding is usually, all of them are bunk beds. So kids will be able to choose their sleeping location when they arrive. We have the groups predetermined based on school and gender, but we do allow the kids to sleep wherever they would like to sleep. Dorms are heated and cooled, private showers and baths. And kind of that open floor plan allows for the chaperones to keep everybody safe and supervised and all the important things that are involved in the dorm. During when COVID kind of hit, they made sure to check all of their HVAC systems, their ventilation systems. They installed a bunch of air purifiers and really hit above and beyond the mark, which is kind of the basis for what your HVAC should be at this point. So everybody eats in the dining hall for most of their meals. All breakfasts are in the dining hall. All dinners are in the dining hall. We do have a snack each evening. They work really hard to provide good, delicious food that also can meet multiple dietary needs. So they can accommodate vegetarians, they can accommodate many food allergies, and that's something that we're happy to chat with them about and then provide you if your child has a food allergy or a dietary need, we can provide you that information prior to actually going. But they also have expanded their eating area this year to kind of accommodate more room for students to be able to eat. And then in the warmer weather, there's some outdoor dining options as well. So what are we going to see and do there? Why are we going? One of the biggest, best reasons to go is the water. It's right set on the middle prong of the river there. And there is couple of different aquatics classes that we participate in. They're going to hike to a giant waterfall. They're going to talk about the fault that's in the ground there. You know, how are the mountains formed? Why are they so worn down? All of the kind of things that they're also talking about in class and have talked about in class in the years prior. They have salamander discovery where they go and they actually get a chance to try and find a salamander, identify it using some of the skills that they have in their classroom. And then they also, you'll see a picture of journaling there that's kind of continued throughout. So while they're there, they're also encouraged to utilize those writing skills and those reflection skills. So they are kind of reflecting, drawing pictures of their salamander, whatever they kind of want to take home with them, and using that time to reflect and build on what they're learning there. So another component is forest life. So their days are really split up. You kind of do a water day where you're working in the water, around the water, hiking to the falls. And then another day is kind of the life in the forest day where we're doing a longer hike. It's about 4 miles, kind of broken up over the whole day. And I know I mentioned in the dining slide, you're going to eat breakfast and dinner in the dining hall. We actually pack our lunches and take them with us on the trail each day, which allows more time to be on the trail. It allows them to hike out, have plenty to eat, and then come back so that they're not having to rush back to be at the dining hall. They do a little bit of shelter building. They do a little bit of history, social studies of the area. They learn a lot about the Walker Valley upon which the Tremont is centered. They get to explore the trees, the forests. It's a really, really fun part of the activities. Yep, so a little bit more on the fault and the river. We talk a lot about like, why is this area special? Because that's really one of the benefits that Tremont has, is to use that education on the place that they're actually in. So one of the things that we always get questions about is the solo hike. Kids do spend a little bit of time on kind of a solo walk where they're never actually really alone, but you can kind of see in that bottom picture there's a well-defined trail, and the Tremont guides will take actual little prompts and they'll put them along the trail to show them where to go, but also to kind of spur them on to think, you know, take 10 seconds to listen to this really silent area, things that we don't just get to do a lot by ourselves. So it's a really neat opportunity. And most of the time we get, you know, 25 to 50% of the kids will tell us that was one of their favorite things that they did on the hikes. So this is just a sample schedule. These things do vary depending on what group your child's in. Everybody will do everything, but of course they're not going to do them every day. So we will also have a sample schedule on our website. So we won't spend too much time on this, but you can kind of see arrival on Thursday. I'm sorry, check-in on Thursday, departure, arrival on Friday morning. We start classes that afternoon, classes all day Saturday, all day Sunday. We have evening programs, and then Monday first thing we have breakfast and we head back out on the bus to get home about 6 p.m. on Monday evening. All right, this is exciting. So we are going to take this opportunity to have our leads and our chaperones talk a little bit about what their experience has been like on the trip. So Laura, I'm going to ask you to jump in.
Okay, I think, can you hear me?
Yep, yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. So let me get my video on too. Sorry about that. I'm answering questions. So what do I think about the trip? I think the trip is an awesome opportunity for our kids to kind of get away and have an outdoor experience that is both similar to what they might find in Missouri, but also offer lots of new phenomena for them to explore and get their hands dirty with. The connection part is fabulous because again, it's far enough away, but close enough to home and the comfort of what they are familiar with. And kids just have a great time being kids. It's totally different from being in the classroom in that kids can kind of just be free to make some really great choices on their own and follow their own interests and learn with friends, and it's just a fun environment. So that's what I love about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. Jason, you want to jump in?
I saw a lot of familiar faces. My name is Jason Lavanos. I'm an administrator in the district. For the trip, I know for me personally, these types of experiential learning really expand your opportunities. I'm not from the St. Louis area. I'm actually from California, and I attribute my experiences in other states to a trip like this that I got to go on when I was about the same age as your kids. Going on a trip helped me gain confidence, see that there is literally a world bigger than my own. To take away so much personal growth in such a short amount of time is incredible. And it truly has been life-changing for me, because I wouldn't be where I'm at now without opportunities like this and experiential learning. Not all kids learn the same way, and this is a great opportunity to really ignite that spark in a lot of kids where they don't get that opportunity all the time. So for me personally, a trip like this is super important. I've been so grateful to partner with Community Ed to bring it back and get it going again, because I know personally how big of a difference it's made in my life and what it can do for kids. So it's a passion for me. I'm excited. I took my 7th grader on the trip right before COVID hit, and I have a 5th grader that I'm excited to send on this trip again. So overall, it's going to expand your children's horizons in a whole new way if they're able to take advantage of this opportunity.
Great. Thank you so much, Jason. Ellen?
Here I am, had to unmute. So I am a former 3rd grade teacher and 1st grade teacher in Rockwood, and I teach now staff development. So I'm still a teacher in the district, working with the teachers using technology. And so I'm in and out of classrooms. I have my own 3 children who attended this trip. They are now teenagers in high school and college. And I would say, as a teacher perspective and a parent perspective, there's something about, and I think maybe Laura talked about this, but there's something about getting out in a learning environment outside the classroom that really changes some kids. We see kids do things they never imagined they could do, whether that's pick up something that's alive or something that used to be alive, or and be in that experience in nature. And there's so much learning that happens besides science learning. And Jason said this too, that, kids grow and learn to be confident in the things that they can do and that they can try when they're sort of out on their own without their family, but of course with the teachers and the staff. So I would just say, if your child has the opportunity, I think it will change them. Again, my 3 daughters, all 3 loved this experience.
Thank you so much, Ellen. Yeah, you really can't speak to the trip like you can with experience. I mean, you've been on many a trip, not just these, but the other ones that we have offered in previous years. And it's amazing to see what really the change that happens in 4.5 days when kids leave and when they come back. And we always try and send them back to you in much better condition than you send them to us. So that kind of ties into the slide that's up right now. We really try, to connect lessons to the classroom. We are maximizing kind of the curricula that is happening in school by giving them the hands-on opportunity to try it, to experiment with it, to really kind of roll it around. And like Jason was saying, kids learn in a lot of ways, people learn in a lot of ways, and this gives them the opportunity to see it, hear it, speak it, try it. So it's really exciting what we can do and how we've worked with Tremont and how they work with teachers to kind of create curriculum that really hits on this age group. And that's why we take the 5th graders because of kind of what they're learning in school as well. So beyond that, beyond the classroom, you all know as parents that there is so much more to kind of build in kids, and that you all are doing a hard job of building those social skills, responsibility, confidence, independence. And that's where this trip can really come in handy with kind of helping to expand those opportunities for what your child can do. They come back a lot of times and parents go, oh my gosh, they were really nervous. They were scared. This is maybe their first time away from home. And they came back and they were just telling me all these stories, and they feel so independent. They feel like they have a new sense of confidence. It's really incredible to kind of see some of those little changes that they get to build on, going forward. We really build that into the program and the way the program is designed. So for health needs, I know, there are medication that kids are going to be taking at home that they may not be taking at school, that they may be taking at school. We do take a nurse with us on the trip. The nurse can hand out all those medications, and we also take all of the medications that they would have in a school. So your basics, we have all the over the counters that you would need. Anything else, we kind of give you all the information you need to be able to send it with them. And the nurse will make sure that they take that in the appropriate time and place and way. Dietary needs, I kind of addressed that a little bit with the dining hall, but please make sure we are aware of any dietary needs, any allergies, any special accommodations that may need to be made, including bringing your own food if that's something that has to be, that's the best solution for you. We can have you contact our inclusion specialist, Chloe Kirsten, and her email's up there, but she's also available through kind of all the links that we provide on our website and at the end as well. We'll get you.
Heather, I think Chloe's on this call. I think if you could unmute her, Chloe, if you could just say hi. I know parents, it's always helpful to put a face with a name rather than just emailing someone. So if Chloe, are you still there?
Yes, hi.
Hi, Chloe, thanks. Thanks for coming up to us. And yeah, she'll be answer any questions that you have. And then she'll also be upon registration. If you do have any of those things, we're going to ask you to a quick question about them, and then she'll be doing the follow-up.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to jump in now and do some of the logistics here. And this might require me sharing a couple different screens. So I appreciate your patience as we go through this. So how much does a trip cost? The trip does cost $650 in total. Excuse me. And you can see there on the screen what is all included in that trip fee. The majority of that cost is associated with the lodging and programming costs there at Tremont, as well as the transportation costs, the round trip transportation. We do provide limited fee assistance to those who qualify. And we'll show you at the end of this presentation, there's all of our contact information that you can reach out to if that is something that you would like to explore. So the way that registration works and the way that the fees work. So let me try and walk through that. I'll walk through the screen before I click on anything, just in case I make a mess here. But registration does open this Saturday at 9 a.m. online. If you have had a child who has been through the program before, you know just how popular these trips can be. And so I would highly encourage you, if you are interested in the trip, be online at 9 a.m. I'm not making any guarantees about being able to secure registration. What I can tell you is that it is not uncommon for some of the trips to fill very quickly in the first couple minutes. And so if you are interested, I would encourage you to make sure you're online ready to go. Our website even has a countdown clock on it when we get within a minute, so you can see just how much time it is until registration opens. And so the registration happens through the main community website, which I'll click on in a minute. But I want to talk through the rest of these details first. So we will have phone support available on Saturday for 2 hours from 9 to 11 if you have run into any issues during the registration process. If you do not have access to a computer, you are welcome to come here to the main community ed office, and we will have computers available, but we do not do paper registrations. And so our community ed office is located on the campus of Ellisville Elementary. So if you're familiar with that school, or you're just familiar with the Ellisville area, we are located on the campus of Ellisville Elementary. We have our own entrance to the building. on the east end of the building closest to Clarkson Road. You are welcome to come if you do not have access to a computer on Saturday. Now, the thing that we really want to point out is that in order to register for the trip, you're registering your child. So if you have not created an account on our online registration system, we highly encourage you to do that before Saturday, because it does take a few minutes, because this isn't like Amazon where you're going to buy a book. You're basically on the registration system. You have to create your family account, which would be you as the main family member. And then you have to add your children to your account. And so your 5th grade child will need to be added to your account, because when you go to register, the system is only going to show names in your account that are in 5th grade. So if you do not have your child in your account and you do not have his or her grade correct, the system is not going to let you register. It's going to show you an error message that you have no one in your account that's eligible for the program. So I would highly encourage you to take some time this week to check out your account and make sure your child's grade level is updated, make sure their child is added to your account. And at any time, call our office. We're happy to walk you through any questions you have. Again, at the end of this slide presentation, we'll have all of our contact information. So the way the $650 works is when you register on Saturday, it's a $200 deposit that is due at time of registration. And then the remainder of the payment will be, of the fee will be due in 2 equal installments of $225 each on January 7th and February 4th. So when you go in to register and make your payment, you're going to enter a payment method. That payment method will be stored, and that is what will be used to charge your installment methods. If something were to happen between December 4th and the first installment and you needed to change your payment method, that is not a problem at all. Just give our office a call or send us an email and we can work with you on that. But it's important to know that whatever payment method you utilize on Saturday to register is what will be charged, the installment payment, unless you notify us otherwise. That is what will be charged, the installment payments on January 7th and February 4th. The other thing that we would mention is if you are in a situation where you would like to have a discussion with us about a different installment plan, that's a conversation that we can have. Payment does need to be made prior to the trip date. So we would have to figure out a process to collect that payment prior to your child's trip. If the installment schedule is not feasible for you, give our office a call. We'll be happy to talk to you about that. I'm going to try and click on this. Let's see what happens. If it messes up for a minute, I apologize. I'll come back to the screen. Okay. Did that go to a different screen? Can you guys, Heather, can you see it? Heather, are you there?
You might have to drag it over if you're on a different screen.
There we go. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes. Did you say yes, Heather?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is prcommunityed.org. So this is the main community ed website where you'll go to try to make this as easy on you as possible. We've put the trip right on the top thing of our homepage. So that's a nice picture of the Smoky Mountains. And then right over here is a button that you can click on. When you click on this button, it will take you right into the Smoky Mountains page. This will give you a little bit more information about the trip. But here at the top of the page is the link to register. So when you click on this link, it's going to bring you right into the registration page for the registration system. So see how I'm already logged in. You would need to log in here at this page. You would click login. Then you come to this page. And then at the bottom, you're going to see right now, you'll see all the different trip dates. And it says registration begins December 4th at 9 a.m. As I mentioned, when we get within about a minute of registration, that's going to change to a countdown clock right there. And so once 9 o'clock hits, this will repopulate, and then all of these enroll now buttons will become live. And so all you have to do is find your school's trip, which are listed here at the top, also in the information that we showed earlier. And then you'll click enroll now on your trip name. Once you click into that, it'll show you the people in your account who are eligible for the trip. You'll click your child's name. You'll agree to the waiver, and then it'll take you through a very short question template. And that'll bring you then right to the shopping cart so you can check out. So the whole process is pretty intuitive, pretty quick, not too dissimilar to if you were shopping on another system website, but it isn't a book. And so we do have to ask a few more questions than what might happen, say, on Amazon.
Please make sure, as we kind of said earlier, to only register your child for your trip. Some trips will sell out faster than others. That is why it will automatically generate a wait list. If you do not sign up for the correct trip, you may lose your spot because you're going to be kind of put after all of those other people that are signing up for the correct trip. So just double, triple check what trip you're on, what school it is, and you'll be in good shape.
So Heather brought up a good point. So once a trip fills, enroll now will turn into, it'll show wait list. And you'll still click enroll now, but what you'll be able to do is register for the wait list for that trip. It is not uncommon for the trips to have a wait list, but it is also not uncommon between now and when the trips actually happen for some spots to open up. That is not a guarantee that every child on the wait list will be placed on a trip, but it is not uncommon for spots on the wait list to open up. And so we would encourage you, even if the trip that your child's school is full, go ahead and register for the wait list.
We do not have a set number of seats per school. We have a set number of seats per trip. So it does vary throughout the years, kind of which school has more kids. It just kind of varies on the schools and the populations, but we are only able to accommodate a certain number of weekends a year, and this Tremont facility is capped. We do hit their cap in terms of how many people we bring. So we cannot bring any more, and we can't kind of accommodate a set number of seats per school. So just to answer a couple questions that I'm seeing here.
Okay, so moving along then. So we talked about registration. Now we want to talk a little bit about how we communicate with parents during the trip, before the trip and during the trip. So we've shown you the website. Here's some information, and we'll show you the contact information again here at the end. But our general email and phone number, you can actually also text that phone number. So that is a phone or text number. Feel free to text us your questions. But then we have 3 different social media outlets that we utilize for trip information, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And so you'll see the handles there. One of the most common questions that we're going to get from parents, and I haven't looked at the chat yet, we will in a minute, but I'm sure there's a question about it, is, are we going to be able to see our kids during the trip? We take lots and lots of pictures, so many, hundreds of pictures. And then we will upload them. But it's important to understand that that's really our secondary role while we're at the trip, because we're there to be working with the kids. And so it's not going to be as time sensitive as you might hope, and it's not going to be constant, and it's not going to be immediate. But I will tell you that typically in the evenings, once we start to settle down, we have someone that tries to go in and upload pictures. We try to do it throughout the day if we get a break, but there's just no guarantee that's going to happen. Nor is there a guarantee that every single group of kids is going to have the same number of pictures. So we will do our best to promote post pictures throughout the trip. But again, that's really a secondary task for us, because our primary purpose is to be there with the kids having the experience. And then during the trip, we will provide you with a phone number for if you have an emergency, because at the facility, when they're out in the field, very hard, either cell phone service is not available, or they're just not available to take calls. And so Heather, myself, or someone else in community ed, we will provide you with a phone number that you can reach one of us, and then we will make that contact for you with the group there at the trip. So you'll have all of that information prior to the trip leaving. And then during the trip, we really on the way home, we encourage you to follow our Twitter handle. And our Twitter handle, we'll work on seeing if we can get that posted on the Smoky Mountain page on our website. So if you don't have a Twitter account, you can still follow it. But that's really the spot where it is an ongoing tweet of where we're at on the ride. So you as a parent know, both on the way there, but also on the way home, especially because you're going to need to meet your child at the pickup site when we get back. And so, you know, if there's a traffic jam or something, we say 6 o'clock, but it might be a little bit later. And so we really utilize Twitter quite a bit on the way home to provide you updates on where we're at on the trip. Heather, did I miss anything on communicating there?
I just want to kind of really outline what I have written there because I know that's a big question that a lot of parents have. So kids are welcome if they have a cell phone to take it on the bus. There will be a lights out period on Thursday night when we are traveling. So first couple hours, and then we have a lights out until the morning. We are in the Eastern time zone. So about 6 a.m. we kind of wake up, hit cell signal again. And then you can you'll get a flurry of pictures and texts and all that kind of stuff. And then that's kind of the last communication until Monday when they kind of hit that same spot back in the mountains. In the mountains, there's not a ton of cell signal. So even if kids have the cell phones, they're asked to leave them on the bus, want to take away from their experience. And that's something that is part of the trip. So you guys will have to have that conversation with your kids, and just understand that that's part of the trip, that there'll be 2.5 days where you will not be in contact with your kids. We will be in charge of if there's any problem, if there's any concern, we will not hesitate to contact you and let you know what's going on and have that conversation with you. But that's an important part of the trip for you to kind of consider with your kids and your family.
And we would invite you to provide your kid with a disposable camera. Heather mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we're around water a lot. So as you might imagine, cell phones falling in water is not a good combination. And so we would encourage you to send your child with a disposable camera or cameras, depending on how much they like to take pictures.
Yeah, because if you're taking a disposable, you're going to get, the first one's going to be before they get off the bus. So it's, we can also do digital cameras, anything that you want to send, but just keep in mind that it's not going to be a cell phone and they cannot keep the cell phone to take pictures.
So kind of moving along, we did mention there are some forms that you'll need to fill out. This is not going to happen Saturday. This will happen after registration, but prior to trip departure. Things like the medical forms, Tremont has a form that you have to fill out. And so you're going to get an information packet from us, which will include the packing list, the departure and arrival information, and different tips. That'll be sent to you by the beginning of end of January. And so we will send that information to the email that was used to register your child for the trip. So if you currently have an account that you don't check that email anymore, we would encourage you to go into your registration account and update your email address, because that is the main point of email contact that we will use. We have already posted a packing list on the website that we just showed you through the main community ed website. So if you wanted to just see, I know a lot of parents might use this as an opportunity with holidays coming up to buy some gifts for their child that they might want to take with them on the trip, whether it's boots or whatever it might be, jackets. And so you can find, excuse me, a packing list on our website right now that you can take a look at. I did mention we will have some required forms that are going to need to be filled out to make this as easy as possible on everyone. We actually use DocuSign, so it's all done through electronic signature. So we will send those to you in a separate email again by the end of January. And again, we're going to use the email address that you utilize when you register your child. So make sure that is a good email address for you. And then we will, previously, pre-COVID, we would have a pre-trip meeting where we would invite folks going on the trip to come get a little more information, answer questions. We're actually going to do that in a video this year. And so to make that as easy and efficient use of everyone's time, we're going to create a video that we will send out to you where you can kind of get all that same information without having to put on your calendar sitting through another meeting. So all of that will be coming forth prior to the trip. So sick policy, we do want to make sure everyone is aware of what the sick policy is. So children who are unable to attend school the day that the trip is leaving due to illness are not able to attend the trip. If this occurs, we'll work with you regarding some possible options, which might include if there are spots open on another trip, and if not, refunding some or all of the fee. You can call our office and we can talk you through more information on that. During the trip, this is really important, and we want to definitely make sure we take time to make sure everyone hears this. And this is not just due to COVID, but children who may become ill during the trip, obviously they will be checked for symptoms of COVID. And those who may be symptomatic will be given the rapid antigen test and be quarantined. But regardless of the illness, children who become ill are going to be quarantined, and a parent or guardian is going to be required to come pick them up. We cannot send an ill child home on a bus full of kids who are not ill. So it's really important that everyone understand that going into this. If your child were to get ill, you or a guardian will need to come pick them up from the Smoky Mountains. We cannot send ill students back on the bus with students who are not ill. You can call our office if you have some more questions about that, but that is a requirement of attending the trip. We forgot to mention, when we get down there, we do get a rental car. So in the event that there was an injury, slippery rocks, kids fall, we are able to take kids to the emergency room. And so we will have a rental car there, and we will be able to have a staff member who can transport that child. Obviously, if it's serious, we'll call 911. But if it's something that we can transport, we will take them to the nearest facility.
Yeah, we are within 15 to 20 minutes of several urgent cares and the ERs, nearest ER, and we do kind of have the lead or the nurse will go with them. We usually have 2 adults that travel with them to that facility.
So this is probably a question that many of you have, and we want to give you the answer that we have based on where we sit here today on November 30th. So everyone, please understand that all of what we're about to say is subject to change prior to the trip date. So of course, the health and safety of those attending the trips, both the students and the staff, is our #1 priority. As with everything we do in community ed, we will continue to work with the district, understanding what district policies and guidelines are. But in addition to that, there are some additional folks that we're going to need to work with as it relates to these trips. The transportation company, who is governed by some federal transportation health and safety rules that are outside of our control, as well as the Great Smoky Mountains Institute of Tremont will have some rules of their own. And so that's a lot of information. Those are a lot of different parameters. And so where we sit here today on November 30th might look different than what it looks like by the time the trips come around. We will, of course, as trips get closer, provide you the information that we have at that time based on the status of the pandemic. If any of the trips were to be canceled because of the pandemic and you are registered for that trip, you will receive a full refund. Outside of COVID, the cancellation policy has been put into place because we know some things may change after registration. But there are also some things that are outside of our control as it relates to cost. And so trying to find a balance between the two of those. All cancellations, so registration opens December 4th. All cancellations that are made prior to December 20th will be refunded in full, minus the $20 processing fee that we get charged the company when you do your online registration. So any refunds, cancellations that are made after December 20th, they are not guaranteed unless we can put full refunds are not guaranteed unless we can place another student who might be on the wait list on the trip, because we are required to make deposits both to the transportation company and to the Smoky Mountains Institute at Tremont that are non-refundable to us. And so if we were not able to place another student on the trip, then the maximum refund that you would be able to receive is $245. Because again, we have made the balance of that are those non-refundable deposits that we have already made that we cannot get back. There are some exceptions can be made to that if it was related to an emergency or medical reason. But in general, that is the cancellation policy. Okay, so we're going to get to your questions here in just a minute, but as far as next steps go, again, register, get ready, get online, make sure your account is ready to go, make sure your child is updated appropriately, their grade level is correct, you have your email address correct, make sure everything is ready in that system for Saturday morning. Feel free to reach out to our office if you have any questions. We mentioned about the payment timeline, how that works with the deposit and then the 2 installments. We will send you those forms that I mentioned prior to the trip dates and the pre-trip video that you can watch. And then we really want you to get excited with your child. It's really a great opportunity for them to expand their independence and not only learn about topics they're learning in the classroom, but learn about themselves. And so it's really an exciting time. We want to give a couple thanks here tonight. First to our trip leads that are joined us here tonight, and all of the teachers and chaperones that are going to give of their time and talents to us over the next few months to come and provide a great experience for your kids. And we also want to thank you for taking the time not only to join this meeting, but for considering this opportunity for your child. We understand that the cost is significant. So we understand that if you choose to have your child participate, that you are making a sacrifice as well. And so we appreciate you considering that for your child. And I can assure you that everyone associated with the trip is going to do our best effort to give your child an experience of a lifetime. Before I get into the questions that are in the chat, this is the screen I wanted to show you. If you did have any questions, here are the various ways that you can contact us. Our office is open Monday through Friday from 8 to 4:30. You can email us at the email listed here. We also have a live chat feature on our website, or you can call or text our main phone number. So feel free to utilize any of those resources to get in touch with us. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so I can look into the chat. But Kelly or Heather or Ellen,
I've got a
Jason,
couple.
Lauren, if you guys want to start on it, go ahead.
Hey, I saw several questions about bus stop safety, which is a great thing. Thank you. So we have a whole system. We do make stops at predetermined, what are they called? The rest stops. We use specific rest stops. We use specific gas stations that we have been using for a long time, that we know we can get into, we can get out of in a safe manner. And what we do is all children are going to spend the entire trip with a name tag. When they check in on Thursday night, they get a name tag, they put it on, that's their ticket onto the bus. And that's going to be their ticket off of the bus to go to the bathroom. They take it off. They, the chaperone, each bus has set chaperones that are responsible for different things. They're going to hold on to that. Other chaperones are going to be the ones that are going to escort them to the restroom, guys, girls, and they're going to escort them back. They basically make kind of a human chain of kind of space. The nice thing about the places that we've already determined is they're not walking across busy intersections, and they're not visiting these places at really busy times of the day. They are in the middle of the night, but they are something where, you know, if it's a rest stop, then a chaperone is going in and they're going to check the entire thing first to make sure that it's safe, to make sure there's nobody in there. That kind of thing. So we have a pretty good system where when they're coming out, they get their name tag back on there. They know, you know, if I have a name tag left over, first of all, either somebody got on and we need to do a head count again, which they do before they leave, or we need to go kind of check the stalls and find out where that kid is. They're not allowed to get candy, snacks, all that kind of stuff at the rest stops. They are invited to bring that kind of thing with them on the bus. But that is a whole system where we've kind of got that all figured out ahead of time.
I see there was a question early on about, are all the classroom teachers going as well? So the answer to that is no. All of the teachers who choose to be chaperones are volunteering to do so. There's no requirement that any teachers attend the trip. So what that means, it is possible that there may be no teachers from your child's school going. It's possible that there may be multiple teachers from your child's school going. You know, we are working through what that looks like. It does require a significant amount of chaperones to make these 6 trips run, but there is not a guarantee that there will be a teacher from your child's school attending. Typically, there is at least one, but it's not a guarantee.
Yeah. And the same thing with male chaperones. It will just depend on who's available. We try and have several male chaperones on each trip, obviously for supervision purposes. And that's something where I'm not going to be able to tell you ahead of time how many actually are on there. When we have the video in the spring, our plan will be to be able to tell you what chaperones are going to be on the trip at that time.
There was a question about an estimate of how many 5th grade students go. I'll use some rough numbers. There are approximately 1,500, I believe, fifth grade students in Rockwood, and we have 700 seats on the trip. So that's roughly about 50% go. We have typically sold out all the trips. That doesn't mean that's a guarantee every year, but just to use that as a rough estimate, that's what we're looking at. There's a question. Go ahead.
120 per trip.
Right. There's a question about parents going on the trip. Heather, you want to answer that one?
Parents are not allowed on the trip. We do use the staff, and we want to make sure that staff are able to, you know, they have all the background checks completed, they have gone through all the trainings, and they're consistently updated on policies as well as safety protocols. So that's something that we just set aside. That's how it's going to work. They also are the ones who kind of manage the bus at check-in and check-out. So that's something too, where at the door to the bus, you're going to wave goodbye to your kiddo, and they're going to get them settled in and sorted and kind of keep the number of people on the bus down.
I see we have a few questions related to how the wait list works and what happens if our trip fills. So a couple things could happen. One is all the trips could fill and there are not spots available on any of the trips. Typically, there are a couple trips that don't fully fill just based on a whole variety of factors, and that varies by trip on any given year. If that were to happen and there was a trip that was not full, we do have the ability to look at wait lists from other trips and try to place groups of students from a school onto another trip. There's a lot of variables involved with that. One, of course, being we have to work with the school to make sure if the kids were gone on the other trip dates, that doesn't create a problem from testing, from other school events, so on and so forth. So it's not a guarantee. I just want to make you aware that that has happened in the past, and it would be something that we would look at in the event we had an opportunity to do so.
A little bit
ahead.
of information about the groupings. First of all, chaperone to student ratio is 10-to-1 or less, kind of on the whole trip. We have buses pre-assigned based usually on the school. They're either typically based on the gender or they're based on the school. We typically have, on a full trip, we have 3 full-size buses. So they travel in, they travel together on the road. And then those are predetermined to kind of maximize the connection, make sure your kid knows people on there. When they arrive, they have groups that we decide upon ahead of time. We pull multiple people from each school, both genders, and put them in a group. So that's the group they're going to spend their time kind of at activities with. One of the benefits of that is that they get to meet students who, you know, in all likelihood are going to be in middle school or in high school together, because that's one of the ways that we have paired the schools up, is that they're going to be, you know, a lot of times they're feeder schools. So at some point they're going to hit another school where they're going to be able to see that kiddo again. And then last but not least is the dorm. So when they arrive, they do get the opportunity to kind of spread out people of the same gender. They get to pick kind of that space, pick their own bed. We do not control that. That's something where they get a little bit more freedom to determine who they're going to sleep next to. There's lots of kind of space and lots of bunks, so there can be multiple people. You know, they don't have to worry about only getting one spot in one room.
Heather, there's a question about if the kids need to bring cash. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so there is a gift shop on site. Really popular items include things like sweatshirts, hats, walking sticks, these like bear hats, cameras, you know, and they're typical gift shop prices. It also is a nonprofit facility, so they are, you know, a little higher in terms of trying to make some money to support their mission, which means that I think a sweatshirt comes in around $25 to $35. They do accept those gift cards, the little Visa cards. But if they want to bring cash, that's a way that they can do it too. The only opportunity that they will have to spend cash is at the gift shop. And then on the way home for lunch, we do give them one opportunity to stop at a gas station to get a drink, to go with the pizza that they get on the way back.
I think we answered this one already, but just to clarify, who's responsible for medications? The nurse will provide those medications on the trip during each day. Heather, if you have seen any, or Laura or Jason, if you guys have seen anything that I'm missing, I'm just scrolling through here to make sure
So-
we're trying to hit them.
Yeah, so the deposit is per child. I know that I've seen that a couple times. It is a per child deposit. So if you have multiple kids in grade 5 that you're going to be registering, it's going to be, you're going to register them separately. You're going to pay the deposit separately. You cannot register multiple people at the same time. You do have to complete the process, but we've made it as short as possible this year.
Will you know if masks are mandatory before we pay? Masks are mandatory as of November 30th. I can't give you a guarantee on what may or may not be happening at your child's trip date. I know that might be a frustrating answer for you. Unfortunately, it's the answer that I have. So I'm sorry I can't give you any more information at this time for that.
So just to go into a little bit more depth in terms of the sickness, we have always kind of had the policy that Mike outlined where, you know, if your child is sick, whether it's the flu one year or it's a norovirus or it's something else, we have always kind of asked parents to have to come and pick their kids up if they're sick enough that they're needing to be quarantined and they're needing to be kept apart from others. We just want to make sure it's kind of really clear this year that this is kind of something that may be required. Now, obviously, we're not talking about your basic things or things that could be, you know, the kids, your stomach ache that's actually homesickness. We have a lot of skilled teachers and a lot of skilled staff that work with those kids and talk to them, as well as a nurse on staff who is kind of making those conversations. Should your kid come to us with an illness, you know, we're going to be having that conversation with you as well. So it's not something where it's going to be really handed down and this is the end. We're going to have that conversation and we're really going to need to decide on a case-by-case basis, you know, if that child needs to go home and why and kind of what's going on. So I know that there's a lot of questions about, well, would this kind of situation need us to send them home? We really don't know ahead of time. We're just going to have to be dealing with it on a case by case. It's not something that we've had to do that many times over the many years that we've been running this program, but it is something that we have had to do.
I'm just looking through this to see if I'm missing anything. Kelly, did you see if I missed anything? Someone asked, you were late to the Zoom. We are gonna put this slideshow on the website, so you'll have a chance to view it if you missed the beginning. We're also recording it, so assuming we can get that recording up online, we'll put that, but at the very least, we'll be able to put the PowerPoint presentation on the website.
So for packing, that's a great question. We will go into this a lot more in depth in our video in the spring. We'll kind of get into the best way to pack, how to be prepared for the weather, et cetera, et cetera. But we really ask you they kind of bring a backpack, a pillow onto the bus, and then, you know, a duffel bag, whatever size bag they need to bring. And then any kind of sleeping, if you need to have a sleeping bag and then another bag and then a backpack, that's about what you can expect to bring on the trip. Kind of have room for.
I think we've gotten through most everything. I apologize as I scrolled through this if I missed a question that you've asked that hasn't been answered. I'll go back and share my screen real quickly because it does have our contact information. So if you have any questions, hopefully you can see that now. These are the various ways that you can reach out to our office. We will do our best to answer the question. We understand that there's going to be some questions related to COVID and health and safety protocols, and we're going to do our best to answer them, knowing that we know what we know today. And so everything, of course, is subject to change between now and the trip dates. And again, I know I said before, I understand that might be a frustrating answer, but we can tell you what we know today. So feel free to reach out to us. We will do our best if we don't have an answer to get it for you and provide more information as it becomes available. So Heather, anything you have before we wrap up here?
No, thank you all for joining us so much. And like Mike said, we are available kind of throughout the week via email, via phone, and we'd rather kind of answer it for you ahead of time. Know that if your child does get cold feet and you need to back out, like he said, there's a cancellation policy kind of set up just for that, because we do run into that. And then please be kind on Saturday when we're running this for the first time in 2 years and registration is happening. And we are here to answer your calls, and we're going to keep it flowing as fast as possible. But if there's any kind of issues, just hop on the chat, hop on the phone and let us know, and we will try and solve them as quickly as possible.
Heather, you can go ahead and stop the recording now. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for your time tonight. We really appreciate